Good evening and welcome to the final FIH Odisha Hockey Men's World Cup show. We have just witnessed an unbelievable final where we've gone to shootouts. But before I go into the games, I'd like to introduce the guest today, Peter Wright, joining us again from Australia, the umpire who has umpired more than 130 international games, many of these exciting, thrilling games that we've just witnessed in the final, also golden whistle holder. Peter, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Marsh.
Yeah, and Anne Veenendaal, FIH Goalkeeper of the Year, Dutch goalkeeper, have won many of these tournaments for the Netherlands. Anna, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so guys, Anna, we'll start with you. What was your take of that final?
Cool. I think Marsha, there's a saying that we use all the time. You never really beat the Germans when you're in the boss back. And I think that was very relevant this game as well. They were 2-0 behind, and I seen the score and I was like, it's not gonna go that easy. And it turned out to not be that easy for the Belgians. So I think it was a very thrilling final, very, very good final to have in a World Cup. And the shootouts were amazing to watch. So I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, wow. I definitely enjoyed it. My heart was racing, even though I wasn't really supporting one particular team, but I just found it so intense. Peter, having umpired some of these games and knowing what some of your colleagues also might have been feeling as well, that tension, watching the game with really interesting moments, with a penalty stroke being awarded and then being saved. And, at one point you thought, you always knew the Germans would claw their way back into the game, and then they took the lead. And how did it feel for you?
Yeah, Marsh, I think exactly like Anna and you have mentioned as well. You always knew that there was something in the tank with the Germans. My daughter actually joked earlier that perhaps Nicholas Vellen's partner told him, you haven't been at home for the birth of the child, so you better bring home the gold medal. So there might have been a bit more to them actually playing like they did tonight. But that's just been incredible from them. I mean, 3 games in a row to come from behind. It's just incredible to see and to witness. And even having someone with the likes of Christopher Rowe who's still not firing on full steam like we would expect as well. So 1 or 2 of their players perhaps not playing like we would expect them to, but the rest of the team, and I think notably quite a few of their youngsters doing really, really well for the Germans. So really exciting times ahead for them as well.
Yeah, indeed. But Anna, we speak about goalkeepers and how important they are in the tournament. What was, for us, I think, is deservedly goalkeeper of the tournament. What was your impression of him, and how much value does that add to a team going into a final like this?
I think I've yet to witness a tournament where he wasn't good. He's such an amazing all-round goalkeeper, and so important, I think, for all the tournaments that the Belgians have won in the past couple of years. And so important again today. You see he saved the stroke at a really important time of the game, and obviously he went to shootouts at the end, but to save a stroke in a game like this, I think that it's crazy. It's a crazy performance, and he did so well again in the shootout series. I think both goalkeepers did, but he always does well, I feel. But he's always so important in crucial times of the game, and again this time I think.
Yeah, unlucky. You almost sometimes will the team to go and score on the other end for all the efforts he's making at keeping the opposition out. And I'm sure he'll be disappointed with the 2 goals that he conceded. The second and the third one. I think that those were goals that he possibly could have, done a little bit more. But the Germans had beaten all the other players in the field, so it can't all be left to him. It must be a lot of pressure for a goalkeeper.
It's always so difficult because you can make every save. And most of the times, the goals you can see that look the easiest are the hardest ones to save. So I've seen throughout the tournament, not just with Vincent, but other goalkeepers as well. If the ball goes straight through the middle and it goes in, it looks easy and it looks like, oh, it's just going through the middle. But that's actually the most difficult save to make, which I think a lot of players don't realize. I think the goalkeepers know that, but a lot of players don't realize that. So it's quite difficult.
Yeah. Well, we've got Dan joining us in India from the stadium. Dan, what are you doing with the trophy?
I've stolen
it. Should be in German hands.
I've taken it. My son earlier in the week from the UK, I was on FaceTime to him. He said, "Dad, can you steal the World Cup?" And I went, "No, I keep my job, but I've managed to get hold of it. Here it is."
Wow, well done, Dan. You deserve an award for that.
Good luck getting through the airport.
Hand luggage should be fine.
Yeah.
What a game. Blimey.
What an intense game. How did you feel throughout that game? And then walk us through the shootouts. What was it like in the stadium? Because both teams looked very calm.
The whole game was just mad. I mean, the fact that Germany just don't seem to understand when they're beaten. Yeah, 2-0 down for the third game in a row and they come back. But then I was talking to Nicholas Vellen in the Player of the Match award at the end. I was doing the interview and I completely lost my train of thought because the guys are going out there. And I sort of said, can you give us a comment on Belgium? And as he said, they're such a fabulous team and they were so valiant in defeat tonight. Danneberg is what, 22? He went
20.
Under 21, and he's just gone and won a World Cup in a shootout. I mean, it's just crazy. How they held their nerve there, it really was phenomenal. But trust me, that I was pitch side for the match, and the intensity was brilliant. It really was a great game.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And we've been spending a lot of time on this final, but let's not forget that the Netherlands beat Australia quite comfortably in that third and fourth playoff. I didn't expect it to be such a comfortable win for the Netherlands, but it seemed that Australia didn't have much left in the tank there, Peter.
I think you're right, Marsh, and we were commenting, I think just before the semi as well, like they haven't really fired off like the Australia we know and we've seen in the past few years. We had some games down at the hockey stadium this evening where the Malaysian under-21s are playing the local WA team, and I was chatting to Chris Sorello and a few of the other guys, and it seems to be the general feeling that something's just amiss as well. And the odd comment of, oh, they haven't played internationally. Yes, it could be an excuse, but at the same time, they could actually be a lot fresher than the other teams. So I don't think they would be using that as an excuse, but I think they would definitely be disappointed because they weren't firing on all cylinders like they usually do.
Yeah, indeed. I think that there's definitely a lot more in that Australian team, but it gives us something to look forward to. But Dan, something else to look forward to is the European Championships. We've got 3 Europeans on the podium this evening. What is your take on that? And we know that Spain and England also looked quite sharp this tournament.
Well, I was going to say 3 Europeans on the podium, and I must admit, coming into the competition, I thought England would be on the podium as well. So in that way, just phenomenally strong. What's that? From memory, I did have it in my notes earlier. I was double checking. I think that's the 7th time a European team have won the World Cup. I mean, that tournament is going to be just incredibly strong. But you said it as well, Max Caldas is Spain. They're an exciting team. They nearly beat Australia. I mean, Australia here for me was slightly weak at the back. They showed quite a lot of vulnerability in defence. But Spain kind of unpicked that quite well. If it wasn't for Andrew Charter being the great goalkeeper he was, that could have been very different because he saved a stroke at the end. But yeah, the quality of European hockey, but the quality of world hockey in this competition has just been phenomenal. Look at Korea, look at all those teams that have stepped forward. Even India didn't lose a game in regulation time in the whole competition. The level of strength and depth in the world game at the moment is just phenomenal, and the positivity around the place is just brilliant as well. Seriously, it's been such a buzzy World Cup having the 2 venues. It's been really good.
Yeah, incredible. So I'm how proud of you of the Dutch team for finishing off strong, having only lost one game and coming home with a medal.
Yeah, I think they did extremely well. I think they'd be really disappointed with losing that game, but yeah, I'm really happy for them that they got the bronze medal, and they have such a young, talented team that they just started building with. And I think this is only just the beginning for them, and they can go on for such a long time with such a good, talented group. So I think this is just the beginning for them, and only more good things to come.
Yeah, which player has stood out for you the most from that team?
I think Jonas de Geus is actually a player that is not necessarily like you see him all the time, but he's very important for the team. Yeah, I think it's kind of like Marloes Ketels in our team. I think she didn't get enough credit for what she did for the team, but it's kind of the same with him. He's so talented and so steady all the time. And I think that gives a really good feeling to the rest of the team, and that makes him really important.
Yeah, indeed. I'm not missing out Dirk de Vilde, huh, Dan?
He's the cult hero. I'm going to start the Dirk de Vilde fan club. I think it's brilliant. The bandana, he floats around the goals. When he scores, all his goals are top drawer. It's brilliant. I think Dirk's... I genuinely just think Dirk's one of those players who flies under the radar. Jurek Kroon's been superb for them this tournament.
Yes.
Go on, sorry.
No, sorry. I think Lars Balk as well is so important with, like in defense, but also in the corner defense. He's I can even count on two hands on how many corners he's ran out. He's just so good, so quick off the line, and I think that's is so important for the team as well.
Yeah, don't forget Terry Brinkman. He's done really well and stepped up as a leader in this team, and he turned it on in these final games. I felt, especially today, I think that he really wore that captain's band on his heart and showed what he was made of. So yeah, kudos to the Dutch men. I think that they really are well deserving of that bronze medal, and looking forward to seeing them flourish in the coming months. But back to the winners, Germany. So Peter said it earlier as well. Netherlands probably had like strict instructions. He does not come home empty-handed if you miss the birth of your child. Dan, did he feel a lot of pressure, you having spoken to him?
Sorry, I missed who you said in the first instance.
Velen.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Oh, Velen. Did he feel pressure? No, I don't think he did. I was talking.
Did that not put a lot of pressure on him? I
don't think he felt pressure. Do you know what? I've spoken to him a couple of times this World Cup, and I keep sort of saying, you've become a dad. You've scored so many goals. You just keep playing so brilliantly. And he's just like, yeah, it's really good. In the post-match press, he's just like, yeah, it's a bit of a whirlwind. It's really, really good. And we were trying to get him off air as quickly as we could because we knew he wanted to go and celebrate. I think because they've got, almost the pressure on them in the early part of the time was actually on Payet more than on the likes of him. And the way that players around him have played, it doesn't put him under that much pressure. He kind of has to score goals, but he's not just a goal scorer though either. He's a very sort of lean, quick player. Although he looks very sort of big and a big target man, but it's quite deceptive in that way. He works incredibly hard in defence for the team. I genuinely don't feel like he's been under pressure. If you compare it to Harmanpreet, and poor Harmanpreet, if he's watching this, is going, don't talk about pressure on me again. I'm sick and tired of it, and I don't play him. But if you compare it to that, totally different. And I don't think Velen has felt the same pressure because of how the team have played here, because it's been a more cohesive unit of quality in that way. I think that's kept the pressure on him. Off him. I suggested it was a bit of a roller coaster of emotions for him the last 2 weeks with everything in his personal life as well. And the comment that came back from one of his teammates was, no, it just keeps going up. It's like a rocket taking off. So, that's the way to look at it. But I did remind him he's got to, go and change dirty nappies when he gets home. So that might...
Sleepless night. Brilliant. And let's not forget, going through all of the awards. I think everybody, all the recipients of the awards are well deserving. But let's not forget, it was really nice to see Mustafa Kasim also be rewarded for his hard work and for the damage he caused to a lot of the teams in the games that South Africa played. Peter, what does this do for South African hockey?
Well, I think, Marsh, they're in a really good space, their men's program at the moment as well. And I think you could see that in the build-up to Tokyo, where I remember, again, doing one of the pre-games against the USA, and Mustafa had actually debuted in that game just before, and one of the selectors saying, "Oh, what do you think of this guy?" And you could just see that he's going to have the X factor, and it's so vital if your team wants to perform and to pull off some big victories or some upsets. And it's just so nice to see a guy like that who's, again, wears his heart on his sleeve, gives his all, plays with so much passion, and is so influential in that team as well. And the one game that he was injured, you could see how it affected the rest of the team. They just missed that firepower and some of those aerials that he throws to the strikers with pinpoint accuracy, and it just gives them so much time and such good scoring opportunities. So it's really exciting to see what's ahead for those boys, and let's hope they get the support back at home that they really deserve.
Yeah. Indeed, I think this tournament, Dan, you would know quite well, and you know exactly how important winning these tournaments are, or finishing in a really good position is for the next phase. A lot of these teams were under pressure to perform in order to get their funding for the Olympic Games. So this next phase is going to be really interesting, where some teams have benefited and will just continue to grow, and other teams are going to need to fight some financial challenges, having not performed as well as they were expected to.
I mean, that's always a bit of a sort of political hot potato, isn't it? Because it's different countries find it difficult in different ways. The Dutch, the Belgians, England are very, very settled. Australia tend to be relatively settled in that way. The one that came to mind there, and I deliberately said England, is Wales, because they've done superbly here. Where were they in the end? Equal 11th, which is above ranking. That should be really positive for them. And of course, them as an individual nation away from Great Britain, that's really important. And I've had conversations with them around that this week. So it's always vital. I mean, I think things like, so England getting knocked out in the quarterfinals, I don't think that'll affect them, because I think everyone can see the potential. I think the danger is the likes of Argentina, and I can't profess to know the ins and outs of Argentinian sporting funding. I'm afraid I've got a reasonable amount of knowledge, but I don't go that far. I think it's the lack of Spanish, personally. But they've had a difficult World Cup. I don't know whether that'll affect their funding or not. You'd hope not, because they're a team that 7 years ago won Olympic gold. It's the volatility of playing in a sport where it's not a football or a rugby, or and there's just oodles of cash lying around. I don't really think any countries have come here and done themselves badly for their reputations, even the likes of maybe Argentina, that would have been expecting to be in the top 8. India also would have been expecting to be in the top 8, but you never know. You never know how things break down over the long term, and that only time will tell for those countries, I think.
Yeah, indeed. But now the World Cup is over. Germany won after winning 3 games from being 2-0 down. We will now call that the German trap, not the 2-0 trap. Dan, where's the party tonight? Where's everybody going? Is it going to be massive celebrations? I'm sure.
Well, I've heard Australia are back at their hotel commiserating because they didn't get on the podium, was why poor Jeremy Hayward was the sole representative, and he's picking up like 7 checks or something. So wherever he's going, I'm following, because he's got the money. It's just going to be one big party. The bad news is I've got to fly home at about 8 a.m. in the morning. We've got to be at the airport at 5:30. So I don't think there's going to be that big a party in the broadcast team. I think I'm trying to think where the Germans are staying, but basically I think wherever they're staying will be where the biggest party is. I think Belgium will drown their sorrows a bit. I think that'll hurt a bit because of the levels they set. But it's, to be honest, the 2 weeks have been a massive party. Rockler has just been one big party. So I think it's just been, everyone's just a bit sort of shell-shocked with the quality, to be honest.
Indeed, it's been unbelievable. And you've been experiencing it firsthand. You just showed us on our screens what it's like, what the atmosphere is like. It was fantastic to see a final with two teams that are, you know, it was Germany, Belgium, and a packed stadium. What more could players actually have asked for? I think that is a phenomenal way to finish a World Cup. And congratulations to Germany. But guys, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's been wonderful chatting to you, also hearing all your knowledge and experience, adding all your knowledge and experience from this World Cup. It has been a wonderful experience and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope that you have too.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Cheers, Mark.